Did you know that I've been doing Synth YouTube full-time for 2 years? It's not been easy. I've struggled a lot. I've learned a ton. I've thought about giving up more than once, but I've also kept going. So today I just wanted to share some of what I've learned over these 2 years here with you. In today's video, I'll be answering questions such as how I make money as a YouTuber. I know a lot of you are interested in that one. How does YouTube affect your health? And what do I love and hate the most about YouTube? And most importantly, do I regret quitting my job and going full-time YouTube? Today's video is also sponsored by DistroKid, and I will talk about sponsorships in today's video as well, as it relates to how I make money. And one way that I make a bit of money is if you actually try out DistroKid using my link in the description. DistroKid has just released a new service which is called DistroVid, which lets you upload your music videos to, for example, Apple Music, Amazon Music, and Tidal. So go and check it out, it's linked in the description. With all of that being said, I want to wind back the clock a bit and for the first time share with you the secret, and not at all exaggerated, totally not made up, Bobeats origin story.
It all began as stories often do, with the villain, a shopkeeper who lured poor Bo into buying an Electron analog keys. "It's great," he said. "If you truly learn it, you will possess a power greater than any living thing." Bo stumbled out of the shop. Confused, he turned to the only help available at the time, Cuckoo's Analog Keys Mega Tutorial. And not before long, Bo had mastered the arcane arts of Electron workflow and wielded the power of the Digitact. But that didn't quench his thirst for synthesizers. He needed more power. He needed to evolve into his final form. A synth YouTuber.
Let's start with the big question. Do I regret going full-time YouTuber? And the answer is no. I don't regret it. While it has been really rough at times, it was just something that I needed to do. There wasn't this big plan, I just felt like I had to try it. I've watched my own father struggle as an artist, and he made the switch to full-time artistry way too late in life. So I knew that there would never be a good time to do it. There would never be the right time to do it. And I knew in my heart that all I could do was prepare and then take a leap of faith. And so far it's taken me to amazing places such as music tech events like Superbooth, and I've met amazing, passionate and super nerdy people, and I've made some great friends through this hobby. And I've also struggled. I stumbled, I fell, I got up again, and I kept on moving. So no, I don't regret it, but it hasn't been easy. I know it's a tired phrase, but few things in life worth doing are easy. So sometimes you just need to take that leap of faith, try something. And regardless if you succeed or if you don't succeed, you can always look back at that moment when you made that choice to try and be proud of that. But how is it feeling that it's become such a big part of your life?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like Eurorack, you know?
Yeah.
Or Synth at all. You start and then it gets out of hand. It's about having something you become happy from, you know?
Yeah.
And I like making that.
So let's talk about YouTube money, since that is something that a lot of you have been asking me about.
In order to give you a good understanding of how I make money, I've created this little pie chart here. This one, the pink one, is affiliate. 32% of my income comes from affiliate programs. So what does this mean? Well, it means that every time you click a link in my description, which is an affiliate link, and you buy something, it could just be a MIDI cable. I mean, let's be real, most of my affiliate income is not from people buying expensive synthesizers or even the things that I review, but rather small purchases like, say, cables. And every time you buy something using my link, I get a small kickback, so I earn a few percent of that sale, which is just a really good way of supporting my channel. It doesn't really matter what I promote, as long as people buy something. And 32% of my income is from third-party sponsors. So for example, like today's sponsor, DistroKid. So that amounts to 32% of my total income. Now the third one here is YouTube itself. So that's the Google AdSense. And as you can see, it's a hefty 19%, and I could see that growing a bit more. This year it's been slower because I've been not feeling too great. I've had some health issues, so I've released less videos, which means less views, which means less ad money from YouTube. And then we have the smaller pieces. 8% is my Patreon support.
A quick note about Patreon support. So while it might not be the biggest source of income for me and for many other YouTubers, it's really important. And that's because the support I get on Patreon isn't dependent on me getting big numbers on YouTube, so it's not related to the views on the videos. So having viewers crowdfund videos on Patreon is really important for YouTubers because it means that we can focus on projects that might not get the most views. We can make the videos that we want to make. So just know that if you're supporting any YouTuber on Patreon, you are helping out a lot.
And then we have the thing that no synth YouTuber want to talk about. How much are we paid by the manufacturers that make the gear? Well, as you can see here, 6%. So this is the estimate for this year, which is actually higher. Last year it was 3%. I think it will increase a little bit, maybe to 10% in the coming year or two. But 6% of my income is from manufacturers, so the people that are making the products. And then we have digital products, which used to be more, but this year I just gave all of my digital products away because the world is in a sorry state and I wanted to give you something back. So this year I'm not making a lot of money from my digital products. And then we have merch, which is like almost nothing, like literally nothing, like 50 bucks a month or something.
Now I want to get an important point across. This breakdown here is just for me. I am not making a moral statement about how other YouTubers should earn their money. Some YouTubers, they get paid more from manufacturers, some have more third-party sponsors, and some, a few, a handful, have insane Patreon support. We're talking thousands of dollars every month. Now, I'm not one of those people, but yeah, no moral judgment here. People have to make their money the way that makes sense to them, and the most important thing is that they're putting out quality content that you enjoy and want to watch. So here are some pieces of advice in regards to monetization. Firstly, you have to be realistic about it. You're probably not going to make a ton of money from Google alone. Secondly, third-party sponsors like Skillshare, like Storyblocks, like Squarespace, they likely won't reach out unless you have a decent amount of views. Like if you're averaging 10k per video, it's going to be difficult to get a good paying sponsor. Not impossible, but it's definitely difficult. Like you'll have to be a bit lucky or you have to work really hard for it. Merch probably won't sell very well unless you're a pretty big channel or do something really, really unique. Digital products like samples and patches, that can actually work pretty well. So if you're making patches and samples or other digital products that people actually want, then you could actually make some money from that. Being an affiliate partner with different stores like Thomann, Sweetwater, Perfect Circuit can also be very beneficial to you. But yeah, I guess I'm not painting the most positive picture, and that's because making money off YouTube is, at least when you're starting out, really, really difficult. So if it's so difficult, how have I made it work? Well, first and foremost, I've done it for 7 years. So I did it for 5 years before I went full time. And over that time, I built up multiple revenue streams. So it's basically many small rivers combined that sustain my channel. So if one of them fails, you know, I won't go under. But if you take, for example, YouTube, I have a big catalog of YouTube videos. Each of those videos contribute a small amount of money each month. So it's something that you build up over time, and you really shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket. Isaac on Twitter asks, do you make more or less money now as a YouTuber than you did before? So in terms of how much money I make, I don't feel comfortable talking about exact numbers for one reason. I run a company, meaning that the money that goes into the company is not what I make in the end. For simplicity's sake, you can say that 50% of everything I make after expenses I get to keep and live off. And the amount that I get to keep and live off has so far been lower than the average salary in Sweden. So we are not talking about big money here. So no, I don't make more money now than I did previously. But I think there's room to grow, and the reason why I'm not making bank is primarily because I've not been super focused on money. I've never been into doing things for money. But wait a second, Bo, if you're not so focused on money, how can you do YouTube full time? Well, the answer is not because I make a lot of money, but because I live in Sweden, where we have good social security and school for my kids doesn't cost anything. That sort of social security takes away a lot of economical stress from me. And also, my family and myself, we are not big spenders, we don't go on expensive holidays, and we don't drive expensive cars. So altogether, I'm in a situation where I can afford to make less and still do YouTube and focus on the things that I want to make, which is admittedly a very privileged position to be in.
Next up in today's video, I want to talk a little bit about how I work with brands, and be sure to let me know if you think this is an interesting topic, as I might make a full dedicated video on how YouTubers work with brands, because there's just a lot to say and I can't cover everything in today's video. But before we get to that, here's a word from today's sponsor, DistroKid. It's a service for uploading your music to Spotify and iTunes that I use myself, and DistroKid just announced their new service DistroVid, and it's an easy way for musicians to get music videos into Apple Music, Vivo, Amazon Music, and Tidal, and you keep 100% of your earnings. It costs only $99 a year to upload unlimited music videos to these services, and DistroVid members get included in Vivo, which means that you get the official Vivo trademark on YouTube. So go and check out DistroKid and DistroVid, linked in the description. While I was making this video here, I got a comment over on YouTube about launches. So you've probably seen this. So at a certain date, a lot of YouTubers are posting their videos. Suddenly your feed is filled with videos about the same product. Now, what's up with that? How does that work? Well, in short, it's simply a news embargo. So it's not just independent YouTubers like myself posting, it's also news organizations, stores. So if you are subscribed to many, or if the YouTube algorithm feeds you a lot of these videos, you'll be seeing a mixture of corporate messaging as well as independents doing their thing. So sometimes it can look very crowded, but you also have to be a little bit critical of who is putting out this information and these videos. And I can totally understand if this looks weird, especially if you don't know what a news embargo is, but this is basically how it works in all manner of media. Basically what you do as a YouTuber is that you sign an NDA, so a non-disclosure agreement with a company, and basically it just means that you won't talk about this secret thing before a particular date. So why are every YouTuber and their grandmother posting at the same time? Well, not everybody's posting. I think we have to be a little bit critical here. Sometimes I see comments like, oh, so many people posted about this new thing, and I go and look and it's like 4 YouTubers, and then it's maybe 8 stores, plus the manufacturers on YouTube channel and maybe the distribution. And sometimes I feel like the YouTubers, the independent artists that are doing their thing, that gets shit on the most. And maybe, just maybe, hear me out here, there's a problem if we as a community put all the YouTube videos in one basket and say, look at all of these videos, when in fact it's maybe just a handful of YouTubers, independent artists that are doing their thing, and a ton of other more corporate videos out there. So that's just something to think about. Now I know that some of you are thinking, wait Bo, aren't most YouTubers paid to make the videos on a launch? Now, I don't have all the data. I can only speak from my experience, and my experience tells me that most are not paid. At best, they have gotten a piece of gear for free. I say for free because it's not really a 100% gift. There can be taxes, there can be import charges. There's a ton of work that goes into doing these videos, and the amount of work that goes into the videos are not equivalent to the cost of the synth. So if you're only getting a free synth, you are not getting paid. You are still paying the company that you are promoting in a way. You are giving them a lot more than what you are receiving. And that's really important for beginner YouTubers to understand, that the pieces of plastic and metal that you get are not good compensation for the amount of effort that you put into a video. It can be weeks worth of time. The equipment that you got costs money, and your reach on social media is worth a lot. And if I'm gonna say one thing from the heart, based on my 7 years of experience doing YouTube, it's that most YouTubers aren't shills for these companies. We try our best to make the best videos possible, to get the best information out there, and we are passionate because it's really not for the money. Tech YouTube doesn't pay very well.
Sebastian asks, have some relationships to companies changed, some for the worst, some for the better? Over my 7 years on YouTube, overall it's been a change for the better in terms that because my channel now is at a certain size, can be more assertive and have clearer demands. So when you start out with YouTube, it's easy to feel gratitude towards companies willing to send you something or even throw a few bucks your way. So to new YouTubers, I would say, do not sell yourself short. Be assertive in a polite way. Set your own terms, and people tend to respect you more for it. And also over my 7 years as a synth YouTuber, I've actively worked towards making companies give YouTubers better deals. So I've sat in many meetings, spoken for hours with companies about how to work with YouTubers in a good way. So to be humble and go to a YouTuber and say, how do you work? What kind of payment do you want? How much do you want? What are your working conditions? All of these things are things that I've pushed, and I think that together with other YouTubers, we are making the market a little bit of a better place for creatives. Alex asks, do you feel pressure or any responsibility to give viewers a good impression of new gear that you test or review? If you mean a positive impression, I would say no. There are absolutely pieces of gear that I reviewed where I clearly show that I'm not super hyped about it. But I do think that it's important for a reviewer not to act in bad faith. There's been gear that took me months to understand, and I could have easily given up, made a negative video about it, like, oh, this is so difficult to use, blah, 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 and gotten all of those sweet clicks from people who would think I'm being the most honest and legit reviewer because I'm negative or ranting. But instead of doing that and being overly dramatic, I instead spent the time learning the piece of gear and trying to understand what makes it unique. The SP44 Mark II is one such piece of gear. At first I didn't get it at all, and then suddenly after a few weeks of using it, it clicked, meaning that I could explain its complicated nature, but also how you could use it successfully, and I think that's the most respectable way to do things. So yes, I feel responsible, but not towards the company or the piece of gear, but rather towards you, the viewer. I want to present a piece of gear objectively, what it is, what it sounds like, what it can do, and I want to add in some opinions of my own and discuss the negatives that I've found. So that is my mindset when I go into reviewing a synth.
Everybody loves getting free gear.
Sure.
And
sure.
You know, I've had like, I think up to now my total count for all the gear I've had is like 3 or 4 devices have been given to me and all the rest has been mine. The first feeling is excitement. Oh man, I'm getting free gear. I finally made it. Then you realize you can't pay your rent with free gear. So then, second, it's that pressure that I found kind of troubling because you still want to make an honest review about it. But of course, you want to continue working with people, and that doesn't mean you're just going to lie on your review. But, you know, if people trusted you with their device and they say, like, I received, you know, the Chase Bliss Habit, for example. I've taken my time in doing a proper review on it because since I got it for free, I don't want to be overly, you know, zealous and overly excited about it. But the truth is, it's one of my favorite pedals ever. So I'm kind of conflicted because people, obviously, they go, but you're just saying that because they gave it to you. And I have like 3 other pedals from them, which I bought myself because I really love the company.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, I bought the Microcosm, for example. They didn't pay me anything. I bought it with my own money, and it didn't click with it. Hologram is a very small company, and they're doing amazing work. They're really innovative. So there's also that like ethical question. Is my video, apart from getting clicks, because I know if I made like a Microcosm sucks video, it would probably like go wild on the internet. Is it really ethical to use my platform in a way that's damaging to somebody just for the clicks? So there's also, I think, an ethical responsibility in what we say.
Karn Black asks, do you ever get anxious about how your videos will be received? And the answer is all the time. I stress quite a bit about getting facts right and that there are editing errors in the videos or that I just haven't managed to give you all good information. So if you ever wonder what weighs more heavily on me, what you think or what the company thinks, it's definitely what you think. And let's remember, a company is usually just one person that I deal with, often somebody pretty nice. And you all are thousands, so if I mess up, I have hundreds of people letting me know. Johnny asks, how do you feel that your contributions fit into the synth community exactly? A lot of people seem to expect that the person making the videos is the end-all be-all expert, and I bet that misconception leads to a fair bit of cranky commenters. Yes, it does lead to a fair bit of cranky commenters. You see, People watching Synth YouTube sometimes seems confused about what a YouTuber is. A YouTuber is a person sharing a perspective and a journey. That is ultimately what YouTuber is synonymous with in basically all corners of the internet. Some YouTubers are experts with credentials, but they definitely don't represent the majority. Instead, most of us are regular people who built something up from scratch, and we are sharing our perspective on whatever it is we are doing. And I feel that my videos serve a really important role. Like, I'm not a pro musician, I don't even call myself a musician. I'm not a pro producer, even though I've worked professionally with production, mixing and so on when I was younger. I'm simply a hobbyist who share my thoughts on music tech, and that's about it. And frankly, since the world of music, like many hobbies, suffers from a lot of gatekeeping and people acting like they know what's up, I think it's good to have YouTubers who are a bit like the average audience member. I don't know everything. I stumble and I fall sometimes. I get up, I learn, I grow, just like I hope my audience does. What is the part that you hate and love the most about YouTube? One of the things that I don't like is that as a YouTuber, you have to be good at so many different things.
It's weird how much emphasis the negative comments puts on you as a musician and how they do not choose to acknowledge all the other roles that are required for making an actual video about something. The videographer role, the scripter, the delivery, the editing, like all of that. The production of a video and being a person in front of a camera. It's also quite a thing to be, actually.
Like you said earlier, Simon, there's so much that goes into creating just about anything. And especially when you're doing YouTube, you're supposed to wear so many different hats. You should know marketing, you should understand SEO, you should understand analytics, you should be able to make thumbnails, you should be able to make engaging content, blah, blah, blah. There's so many things. But then I also take a step back and I say, if I want to run a restaurant, so at the face of it, a restaurant, like everybody knows what that is. Like, it doesn't seem like it's the world's most complicated thing. But there's still so much that goes into it beyond your passion, beyond your authenticity, beyond your sheer devotion to making the best food, you know? There's so much more that goes into it. And even then, when you put in all that work, you might not succeed. To me, that's very humbling.
Go and check out Simon the Magpie's podcast, Almost Viral. We made a crazy 3-hour episode together, so go and check it out. Now, the main thing that I love about doing YouTube is how versatile it can be. The fact that I can choose my own projects pretty freely and that I decide what to do, not some boss. So the freedom is this double-edged sword. On the one hand, I have to do everything myself. There's so much to do. There are so many different roles. But on the other hand, I have a lot of freedom to choose and to wake up and do the things that I want to do. What was the biggest obstacle that you had to overcome? My self-doubt was probably the most difficult thing that I had to overcome, beside my very Swedish English accent. And I still struggle with it, the self-doubt, that is, the Swinglish accent is getting a little bit better with training. So I have this nagging feeling that I'm not doing good enough, that I should be doing more, do better. And I think a lot of you can relate to that you're questioning the value of what you're putting out there. But YouTube has actually been helpful in a way because I've exposed myself to these thoughts and feelings every single week. Because when you put out a video every single week, you slowly start to change the way you look at the world, and you realize that a lot of what's going on inside of your head is not representative of how people actually perceive your content and the value that they are getting out of it. So funny enough, YouTube has actually helped me grow as an artist, as a person, as a creator. Perky Patch asks, how much did COVID affect your YouTube plans? It actually affected my plans a lot. I didn't realize how much until like the end of 2021. I had 2020 all figured out. It was the first year I was gonna work full time on my music and my videos. I had 4 or 5 trips planned across Europe and sponsors lined up for that. And then boom, suddenly the pandemic hit. I had to cancel everything. That wasn't fun at all, and it cost me a great deal of stress. It also shows how important it is to have some sort of backup plan and not putting all of your eggs in one basket. Ivan asks, how has YouTube affected your mental health? So the thing that has affected my mental health the most over the years is probably all the negative comments. I don't get a ton of them, but enough that it affects me. And dealing with that kind of stress is super important. But I don't have any great advice on how to deal with it because frankly I'm pretty bad at dealing with it myself. So my advice would be realistic about it. You don't know how to deal with the stress of an always online kind of life until you are in that situation, and be mindful that it might affect you more than you are first aware of. And take any symptoms you notice seriously and deal with them accordingly. I've of late spent money and time on physiotherapy because of my aching hands and neck due to the long hours I spend editing videos. That's just one example of stress that full-time YouTube puts on your body. So take symptoms seriously, both mental and physical. I think that exercising regularly, as well as having good social support, friends, family, is really key if you want to go full-time YouTube, because it can be quite a lonely job. And I think you have to remember that starting any sort of company by yourself is always going to be a lot of work. It doesn't matter if it's YouTube or if it's starting a restaurant, so just keep that in mind. Has full-time Synth YouTube affected your family life? Yes, but mostly positively. Before I had 2 jobs and I did a master's education at the same time, so I went from that to just 1 job. And this means that I have more free time. But it's also a very demanding and stressful job at times, and sometimes it affects my family negatively. For example, the difficulty to be on vacation is one of those problems. So you have this constant fear of your YouTube channel completely tanking, dying while you're on vacation. So yeah, that's rough to deal with. And that's why I've done the Summer of Synths project, for example, during the summer, so that the channel is alive during the summer when I'm on vacation. It's also a really nice way to sort of share my audience with other YouTubers. And that's also why Patreon is super important, because Patreon allows me to take a bit of vacation. That's also why returning sponsors such as DistroKid is super important, because it also takes away some of the pressure of constantly putting out content. What would you have done differently if you started over today? Now this is so hard to say because you need to experiment when you're starting out. But if I made a new channel today, I would probably try and keep it a bit more narrow in focus. You see, YouTube does award channels that are consistent, because consistency means that the viewers know what to expect, and the likelihood that your subs will watch your latest video increases, which in turn means that YouTube will push that video to more new viewers through the recommendations. So if I started over, I would just try and keep it a little bit more narrow, a little bit more consistent. So that was me looking back at 2 years of full-time synth YouTubing. I hope you got something out of the video. Let me know down in the comment section if there are other videos like this that you would want me to make. Do you want me to make like a deep dive about the economics or how I work with brands or something like that? Just let me know down in the comments. And as always, have a great day and hope to see you in the next video.